Week 15, set 2, SWYK number 4. We're dealing with a quartic polynomial. And we graph it to find nice solutions to start with. Okay, let's go to the graph. All right, sorry I typed this equation in. It looks a little weird here, but you can see it crosses, and it looks like it crosses at +1 and at -4. Now, if I zoom out, and I'm going to grab my 2 points on the y-axis only, so I'm shrinking the y-axis down so you can kind of get a better shape, a better idea of what the polynomial looks like. But it is crossing at 1 and at -4. So let's go back to the situation we're dealing with, which, where in the world is my work? Oh, that's question 9. Stop it. Why is it moving around so much? All right. So as you can see, I went to my quartic, and I started with -4. But you could have easily started with -1. And I'll show you here these. We did the I can't even talk. The synthetic division. Blah. Yeah. So carry down the 1, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, and I ended up with the red 1, -1, 1, -1. Then I switched to the 1 that I found on the graph, and I carried down the 1 and multiplied, add, multiply, add, and ended up with a very nice result. I ended up with, as we have talked about before, my remainder all the way over here, my constant, my linear x, which is a 0, and my x squared. So I ended up with x squared plus 1, and took that information, set it equal to 0, solved. This is where I was getting that plus and minus I from again, right? So we found our remaining solutions. So the -4 and the 1 we found from the graph, but then we used synthetic division to get down to a point where we could continue with solving. We didn't need the quadratic formula, although that could come up sometime. Question 11, find all the zeros of the function, graph it to find a good 0 to start with. Well, I happen to notice that I didn't even need to graph it, right? Because I noticed that I could do the grouping idea. Took an x squared out of the first one, that gave me x minus 8. Took a 4 out of the second one and got x minus 8. Now I can look at this chunk and this chunk. Now, you know, could I have gone to the graph? Sure, I could go to the graph. I'm going to find one 0, and then I would have to use synthetic division. My method doesn't even require me to use synthetic division. But if you feel more comfortable going to the graph, finding that 1, 0, and then using it with synthetic division, by all means, that's a good strategy too. So I pulled out the x minus 8 because it's a common factor, and that left me x squared plus 4. Obviously, x minus 8 is spitting out the 8, which is what you would find on a graph. And then you would get x squared plus 4, subtract 4, divide by 2, or take the square root, I should say. And that's where I get my plus and minus 2i. And my plus and minus 2i then will be written like this. All right. I decided this is going to be my last question for this particular SWYK and assignment because it's just we've done enough, and so we don't need to continue. There's a lot of repeating going on, but we need the practice. So, hidden quadratic. So we could break that up, right? X squared, factors of -25 that add up to -24x squared. And so that would be the plus 1 and the minus 25. And set the two factors equal to 0, as I showed you. Of course, one of them splits out plus and minus I, like we've done before. The other one just spits out plus and minus 5. So, wrote all the answers down here. And that is enough for this particular SWYK. Not a long SWYK, but that's okay. You've done enough work. Get ready for that assignment, and then we're moving on to the test.